What's Your Real Name, family? My name is Bernadette McDonald, and I am the host this evening for this video / podcast with Javier Vallarta. Oh, almost got it. Almost. But anyway, we're here to discuss adoptions. Javier was not adopted himself, but his birth father is. And we're here to discuss his journey and how that came about and how did he feel about it. So, Javier, how was your journey?
Well, my journey as the son of an adoptee was always a very interesting one from the beginning. I only came to really know who my biological family on my father's side was about 3 years ago. So a lot of things changed after that. When we first went to meet them, I actually got to see them face to face.
Where did you meet them?
This was in Quebec, somewhere around, I believe it was Montreal.
Okay.
Was where I stayed with one of my uncles, where my other uncle and my grandmother lived in Chicoutimi.
Okay. And how old were you then?
Oh, I was 17 going on 18.
Okay.
Yeah. And it was a really interesting experience for sure, meeting all of them, because there was of course the language barrier.
I can imagine. Yeah.
It was definitely an interesting thing to work with, but it made it almost a little bit more personal in a way. Yeah.
Yeah, because you would have to find different means of communication.
Yeah, exactly.
When you were there, how long did you stay there for?
Well, we were there about 2 weeks. 2 weeks we stayed there. It was about a week with my uncle, and we stayed with him. He showed us around a lot. We got to know him a lot more. Mm-hmm. And then we made the road trip up to Chicoutimi to meet my other uncle and my grandmother.
I hear Chicoutimi is beautiful.
Oh, it's a gorgeous place. It's gorgeous.
Looking forward to it next year.
It was a really beautiful place. I liked it when I went there, and I definitely go there again. Good,
and I hope to see you next year there.
Oh, I'll be there.
You're perfect.
Don't worry, I'll drag my father along with me.
So when you met your family, did you find similar appearances amongst you, or?
Yeah, we did. Definitely, there was a lot of facial features that were similar. Okay. One thing that I like teasing my dad about is that his nose is very similar to his brother's. His nose.
It's in the genes. I'm telling you. This beaker, man.
Every time.
Yeah.
And I got his nose too, sadly, so I'm stuck with this thing. It was there was a lot of other features as well. The eyes, the cheekbones, just of course they were still very different.
Yeah. How were they different?
Oh, my other uncle that we spent that first week with,
mm-hmm.
He was much. I think he was like about a couple inches taller, burlier. Even his skin tone was a little darker, but I assume that's from all the construction work he does.
He'd be outside. Yeah.
Yeah, he'd be outside, and there was a lot of subtle differences for sure.
Mm-hmm.
But outside of that, they were actually more similar now that I think about it a little more.
Were there any commonalities in like hobbies or jobs or vehicles, maybe even? Lifestyles?
Probably cars.
Okay.
My father and my uncle both like cars. Lifestyle for sure. Granted, some of these habits probably weren't the best, like smoking. Didn't talk about that. But yeah, they definitely did have habits. Like it was their personalities differ, of course, but you can definitely see how they'd be related. Just from their personalities.
Were you able to meet any cousins around your age?
I believe there was one when we had the get together.
Mm-hmm.
my memory is horrible, but I do remember a good chunk of it. There was one kid that I do not remember his name, but that was the only kid anywhere near my age at that event. Yeah. And it was definitely an interesting thing seeing other people that I was distantly related to. That I was like, wow, I'm in a room full of family and I know like absolutely nobody.
Well, that can be serious too. That can be a tad awkward.
Yeah.
You know, you would think.
Usually, I'd have no problem in a situation like that, but it was definitely a bit weirder knowing that everybody was family. So I was a bit more conscious of first impressions.
Yes, and that's the whole thing, right? How they perceive you.
Yeah.
You know.
Definitely, it's definitely something that was on my mind. Still, regardless, though, they were all great people. I had nothing to worry about in the end. I worried too much over nothing.
It seems to run in the family.
Yeah, well, I get it from my dad.
So, how were you able to communicate with them?
My uncles, we usually, well, the one that we stayed with for that week, it was pretty easy because he did speak enough English that it was easy to actually have like simple conversations with, like, hey, where do you want to go eat? Or, hey, you want to go for a walk? Stuff like that. For my uncle and grandmother that lived in Chicoutimi, though, it was much harder because they both spoke almost strictly French.
Okay,
So,
was it Canadian French or Parisian French or slang French?
I believe it was Canadian French.
Okay.
And so my uncle that we had been staying with up until that point was working partially as a translator. When we first met them, we were getting used to it, so he was there and guiding us through it. And after that, we got more comfortable. After we got to know them a little more, we were just sit down, pull out the phone, tap Google Translate on, and we just talk back and forth.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah.
How do you feel your dad's experience was?
Oh, he absolutely
From watching him.
It made him a very. It definitely changed his view on a lot of things.
Okay.
I got to watch him as everything happened, and I've always liked to observe. So for me to see him go through this huge change and meet family that like he hadn't had contact with for over 40 years was an amazing experience. And seeing him just be so happy meeting and seeing his family again was pretty heartwarming, I guess is the best word.
That'd be a beautiful view.
Oh, it was.
Yeah. Would you ever adopt?
Adopt? I've thought about adopting, but I always kind of leaned more towards the foster care.
Okay.
Yeah. There's a lot of, well, I've had a lot of friends who've gone through the system, and a lot of people that I know go through some pretty bad situations through the system, and I want to be part of the reason why that changes.
That's good. We need more people like that all around the world.
I mean,
would you always live in the States?
I've always lived in the States outside of Puerto Rico, which was where I was born. But when we moved from there when I was 4 years old. And I've been in Florida pretty much all my life since then. I think the farthest I've traveled anywhere was probably Cancun, Mexico.
Oh, okay.
Or Canada.
There you go. Well, I think we're a little bit further than Cancun, aren't we?
I don't know, actually, now that I think about it.
I don't know.
It's possible, one of the two.
Yeah. Would you always live in Florida, or do you have any aspirations to move elsewhere?
I definitely want to move elsewhere. For the degree that I want to pursue, I want to move out of state for sure to get my doctorate in English education. Hopefully start doing some proper change into the schooling systems and trying to get something going that will help the future generations in the long run. So
where would you go?
One that I was looking for was probably UCSD in California.
Okay.
Seeing as I have cousins, aunts, plenty of family over there, I have a kind of like, not safety net, but more as a support pillar. I know I have family that I can talk to, get advice from, that are nearby, that I can just go and say like, oh hey, Christmas is coming around, sweet, let's go have dinner together. You know?
With you going through this experience with your dad, have you ever come across anybody who's adopted or found out that they were family of yours?
Yes. Yeah, I actually had a friend from school, from high school. His name was Hunter. Great kid. I had known him about 2 years before I even found out that he was about, I think it was my cousin thrice removed.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just out of nowhere. Known the kid for 2 years, and out of nowhere we were just like, oh hey, we're related.
Stranger
Went to the
things
same
happen.
school.
Yeah.
Small world, right?
Exactly. If you came across anybody now with knowing the experience that your father has gone through, would there be any advice that you would be wanting to share with them? To help smooth the transition of finding out?
Yeah, get a DNA test. That's for sure. Because for him, when he wanted to get back in contact with his family, we kind of egged him forward to get a DNA test.
Mm-hmm.
And it did a huge benefit to him. Granted, he's a DNA freak now. He's addicted to finding DNA relatives. So it was probably one of the best decisions he could have made. And he wouldn't.
Do you find it came with hesitation though initially for him to do that?
Yeah, because it's definitely a huge step forward. And seeing where things have gone now, it definitely was.
Yes.
But he grabbed the bull by the horns and he kept going.
Would you suggest anybody else to do this journey?
I would suggest everybody to do it. Because, like, sure, you're going to be meeting new family, but there's an aspect to it that it's like, it's not just meeting new family, you're meeting new people.
Mm-hmm.
People that you happen to be related to, of course, but it's regardless an amazing experience knowing that you have a connection with these people that you didn't even know you had. And they could be across the world, and you could be cousins.
Well, exactly, like we are.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? Right? Will you be attending the AACDQ Big Happening event in Quebec next year?
I definitely will, and I'll be there as staff.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Yay.
100% supporting that all the way. I think it's an amazing event. And I wholeheartedly support my dad for doing it too. It's he's getting older now. It's definitely something that he wants to do, and something that he's been putting a lot of effort into.
Mm-hmm.
He stresses himself out over it, but he wants to do it. So he's been doing everything he can, and I want to help make that happen.
Beautiful, beautiful. So out of this whole journey, this whole event, this whole thing that's happened with your dad, what is the most prominent thing you're taking away from this whole experience? And if there is anything that you would have changed, what would you have changed?
If there's one thing that I would have changed, it would be the passing of my grandmother, my biological grandmother on my father's side. Obviously, that's not really something I could do. Cancer's a hell of a disease, and it definitely did its number on her. She was a fighter, for sure, and I really wish he could have gotten to spend more time with her.
Mm-hmm.
Because the time that he had to interact with his mother was not very long.
Okay.
And,
have you ever met your grandfather?
I never met either of my grandfathers. I've always wanted to, but I think the one on my father's side is actually, well, he died about when my dad was in his 40s or 30s, I believe. So I never got to meet him, but I always heard stories about how amazing he was. And I don't know where my other grandfather is, so.
Okay. You could ask them any question, what would it be?
greatest grandkid ever?
And they'd probably say yes.
And if they didn't, I'd show them I was.
Oh, there you go. Perfect, right? So what advice or support initially or in the future would you give your father in his journey of finding more information about his father?
Obviously, there's not much I can do.
Mm-hmm.
I want to learn more if I want to help him. So I would definitely put in the effort. It's just a weird situation for me because there's just so much like conflict going around about it, and it's definitely a very difficult person to find. And it's at this point, it's like, is it? I'm starting to even question if it's even worth it.
I can understand that.
Because it's, I don't know, it seems to be putting more strain on him than it really seems to be worth. I think it's great that he wants to find his father, but I think sometimes things just need to be let go. And I hate to say that, but it's the truth.
I always say the timing just isn't right.
Exactly.
Right? I mean, I never say never. I don't. Well, I can't say don't. My philosophy is never say never. It's just a matter of, is this my time? Is this my time to meet somebody? Is this my time to let go? You know, everybody's different. Everybody's journey is different and so forth.
He hasn't come to that conclusion yet. He still wants to try. And I understand, because for it really hasn't been that long that he began his search. Realistically, it's 3 years is a very short time. And
correct.
He still has a long way to go to search for his father. I definitely believe he can. He's dedicated to it. And I don't know, it's just a very strenuous situation. As it is right now, at least.
Well, any closing words there, Javier?
Yeah, actually. When you're meeting new people, when you find out you're adopted, or you do take that DNA test and find a relative, keep an open mind. It's a new page to a book, you know? Could be in the middle, could be at the end. Regardless, it's a wonderful journey, and it'll have its ups and downs, but it's gonna be fun, just like a roller coaster would be. You're gonna go up, come right back down.
Gotta come down.
Exactly.
Well, it has been an absolute pleasure speaking with you today.
Thank you so much.
And I hope to see you in Quebec next year. And thank you for your candor. And from all of us from ACDQ in helping those find family. Good night.
Thank you very much for having me, Bernadette.
You're welcome.